Welcome to this session. Today we would be talking about the concept of political geography. So we'll be discussing the various units of political geography, the concept of frontier and boundaries. We'll talk about the various types of boundaries and frontiers. Then we'll be discussing about the development of a state, how it evolved over the years, and what are the various phenomena for development. So let's start with the first topic, that is, what is a state? What is a state? How is it different from a nation state? What is a nation and what is the meaning of a country? So let's start with state. So state is any population that works under a common government. Okay, in other words, I can say it has a single government or sovereign territory. Okay, so this is what is a state. Now let's understand the meaning of nation, country, and nation state. What is nation? A nation is a population having single culture. Culturally, they are the same. Country is I can say, an identifiable land area, which I can identify as an area. While nation is state, it is a very important term and very important to understand because we are seeing how we can demarcate nation, state, and nation state. So nation state is a group of population where more than 90% of the population have single culture, okay, and underlying single government. So we'll understand this again. In a state, I'm saying that it's a population that is working under a single government. In nation, it's a population having a single culture. So when I'm merging nation and a state, I'm merging single government and single culture. So it's a single culture having single government. Typical examples are Japan, Iceland, then you have Ireland, you have Tonga. So these are all examples of nation state. Now, to be very clear, we need to understand the concept here that how is a state working, how is it different from a nation state, and what is the meaning of nation. So whenever we talk about nation, that is a population having single culture, we talk about a feeling associated to it which is known as nationalism. Nationalism is a feeling of oneness, that all the people of that group share common ideas and have a common platform where they are working. So that's what is nationalism. Nationalism is strongly bound to your cultural feeling or your essence of being one. Now, when we talk about state and how these concepts of political geography originated, we must know the evolution over the years. So let's start with the Cold War. After the Cold Wars, during 1940s to 1980s, there was an era of USA versus Russia. The role of US slowly declined and Russia no more exists. Or I should not say Russia here, I would say Soviet Union. Yeah, Russia and other states. So Soviet Union no more exists. So what gradually happened was an era of globalization started. Under this globalization era, you have mixing up of various cultures and various representations. So when I talk about state here, I can say Korea is two states. You have North Korea and South Korea. I can say China and Taiwan are different states. But there has been a long history which has been working around this. before its development started. So for that we need to look into the development of states. So how did a state started to originate? You have the ancient development. Under the ancient development, we talk about the Fertile Crescent. Fertile Crescent is an area of Mesopotamia and the region surrounding that where you have the concept of city-state growing up, city becoming as a major center of communication and trade, and then slowly, due to that fertile trade, the nearby areas developed. So that was a phenomena of ancient development. Later on, colonialism started. So what happened under colonialism? Under colonialism, there were a group of people who wanted to establish their supremacy across the world. The most common colonist countries were Britain, then you have France, you have Portugal, Spain, all the countries who were good at development of resources and who were good navigators or had a good sea boundaries tried to explore the world through sea. So Britain, as we know, is known as the sun never used to set for Britain. That means they had colonies across the globe and everywhere you could find a British colony. So what was the aim of colonialism? The aim of colonialism was three. It is also known as 3G. Not the 3G telephone, definitely. You have 3G as God, gold, and glory. So that belief, God means it aimed to promote Christianity. That was the first aim of colonization. The next aim was gold, that is to provide and develop resources. And last is glory, to indicate your relative power, that I am much more powerful than my neighboring countries. So these were the three aims of colonialism. And as colonialism started, slowly and gradually development of a state across and beyond a specific area started. So when you had the development of a state, we talked about the state, we talked about nation, we talked about nation state, we talked about city states, which was in the ancient civilization. All these we need to understand. There was also a concept that existed that was stateless nation. What does it mean? It means there is no state but the concept of nation exists. So the concept of nation is maintaining your culture without any political boundary. That is what is a stateless nation. For example, you have Kurds. You can find Kurds in North Iraq. Then you have West Iran. Then you have East Syria. And then you have Southeast Turkey. So all these regions together form the region of Kurds or Kurdistan. This technically does not have a political boundary, but it is a stateless nation. They are not united as a state, but as a nation, or they have a cultural unity. Similarly, you have Basques. They are found in North Spain and Southwest France. Then you have Hmongs. They are found in Laos. They are mountain people. Laos, Vietnam. You have Thailand and South China. So these are all. These all form a common community or a common culture which do not have a political boundary, but they share various political regions or territories and they try to unite as one. Now when we talked about the stateless nation, there are two more concepts that we need to know. One is big fellas and wee fellas. Big fellas means federal groups or confederation, and wee fellas means microstates or micronations. So these are microstates, and big fellas are the federal states. So the examples of big fellas are USA, Australia, Canada, and so on. Okay. Then under big fellas, we need to understand two terms. You have the federal system and the unitary system. Unitary system talks about a central government which is looking into all the affairs. Federal structure talks about the local government which has been empowered to look into this issues. So what happens is the unitary government gives a picture of military, foreign diplomacy, trade, and so on. What does federal does? So unitary distributes it across the various states, and federal tries to look it into its own independent states. So this is unitary, and you have a small federal components which are looking into themselves, and this unitary is looking into all the federal units. So that is what is the meaning of unitary and federal components, understood that we understand in big fellas. So big fellas are the microstates. Common examples of microstates are Andorra, demarcated on the basis of landlocked. Basically, it's a landlocked country. Then you have some islands like Barbados. It's an island group. Then you have Monaco. It's a port. These are all under UN. A typical example of a microstate which is not under UN is the Vatican City. Now, there is a similar concept that is known as the supranational. Supra means much more than nation. So you have supranationalism or supranation, that is where two or more sovereign states try to unite for a common purpose. So you have a common purpose where two or more nations unite. So a classic example of supranationalism is United Nations or UNO. Under UNO you have various wings. You have the Food and Agricultural Organization, World Health Organization, you have UNICEF, that's the Children's Organization, you have UNDP, that's the Developmental Organization, then you have UNHCR, that's the High Commission for Refugees. So these are all branches of United Nations working under one common body. A similar example of supranationalism is EU or European Union. So what's the classic characteristics of European Union? It was basically a committee on economic trade, which later on converted into economic union. The aim of EU is you have the Schengen visa, a common visa to move into all the states of European Union. Then you have a common currency which is euro. You have a common judicial code that is at Luxembourg, a judicial union. Then you have a free trade across the countries. But there is a very big issue with UN where we say the darkening of UN or the gray side of UN is the EU. EU does not have any constitution. So there is no constitution. That's the primary concern. Because there is no constitution, there is no common control over things. So you have higher crime rate and higher terrorism. You cannot restrict people from coming in and going out of one country to another. So it's difficult to curb crime and terrorism. So what is a concept that is going nowadays is Fortis Europe. That means you need to seal the boundaries. You need to seal the boundaries of European Union. So there are pros and there are cons for everything. Now let's understand the next concept that we will be talking about today. That's the frontier versus the boundaries. So what is frontier and what is boundary? Boundary is an invisible line, invisible, indefinite, very thin and fragile line that is drawn across. Frontier, on the other hand, is a tangible geographical area. It's a tangible geographical area. It is under no state and has a political control. So it's between, like, you have a frontier between two nations. So it has no state but has a political control. Now let's talk about the various types of boundaries. Boundaries can be drawn by various means. You can have a desert as a boundary, a mountain as a boundary, water as a boundary. You can have culture as a boundary, religion as a boundary. Okay, so you have n number of parameters based on which you can say it acts as a boundary. But now let's understand the major concepts of boundaries. Let's start with water boundaries. There are two main concepts according to UNCLOS, that's law of seas. First is the territorial waters. Territorial seas or territorial water extend up to 12 nautical miles. It's the region up to which you have absolute monopoly over the resources. Then you have the EEZ or the exclusive economic zone that extends up to 200 nautical miles. It is the region where you can have your resources harnessed, so you can explore and exploit the resources in that region. So up to 200 nautical miles across every nation, you have your exclusive economic zones. So this is one of the water boundaries we have talked about. Now let's talk about some of the common boundaries. A boundary can be compact, that's round, so it's good for defense purposes, communication. For example, Poland, you have Belgium. Then you have product boundary, where you have increased resources for water and related resources. You have Thailand, you have Myanmar. So they are elongated, like big countries which are protruding into the ocean or another territory. Then you have elongated. These are long, like Chile. That's a classic example. Italy. They are long and narrow. Then you have fragmented boundaries. Fragmented boundaries means the territory is not defined into a single area. You have dispersal. For example, Indonesia, Philippines, you have a lot of small islands. You have Hawaii, you have a lot of small islands spread across the region. So these are fragmented. Then you have perforated. Perforated is within the whole area you have another territory. So for example, South Africa has Lesotho inside it. So Lesotho is a country. South Africa surrounds it, so it's a perforated. Then you have landlocked. Landlocked boundaries are which are totally covered on all sides. So you do not have any access to direct sea. For example, Bolivia, Laos. So these are the classic examples of landlocked boundaries. Now this is one classification that we have talked about. The next classification is based on culture. You have antecedent boundaries where the boundaries exist before any cultural development. Okay, the culture came in later, the boundaries came first. So that is antecedent. The next is subsequent. It is after the cultural development. Then you have consequent. Consequent means you are accommodating the existing culture or the existing language development. Then is superimposed, where one culture gets imposed over another or one boundary gets imposed over another. Relic, as the name suggests, relic means old, so it's now no more exists. For example, North and South Vietnam, there is no more boundary nowadays, so it's old or relic, we can say. An important concept to understand here is irredentism. Redentionism, what is it? So where you have an ethnic group which is supporting to reunite to the ethnic population which is present into another country. For example, Somalia is trying to reunite to Somalis living in Ethiopia. So you are already a one ethnic group and you are trying to reunite to the existing ethnic group in another country. So that is known as irredentism. Then there are two more concepts, that is enclave and exclave. Enclave and exclave. So enclave talks about you have a minority culture within a majority culture. So for example, this is a majority culture, within that you have a minority culture. So that is enclave. And exclave is you have whole of the region and region is fragmented or separated from the main region. For example, Alaska is separated from the mainland United States of America. It's a part of the United States, but it's separated physically. So that's what is exclave. So exclave is a territory that is separated physically, and enclave is a territory which exists within a dominant group, and it is another minority group. So this was about the basic units. We would be talking about electoral geography, the concept of geopolitics, and the various models in geography, the heartland-rimland theory and the containment theory in the coming sessions. Stay tuned for more sessions in political geography. Have a good day ahead.